far as you're concerned?
The building owner.
Okay.
In our mind, so it's a case of starting. It's everybody in the supply chain, but it's having more of a focus on what the delivery of a building means in terms of building level output rather than component level input. So for us, we are speaking to an awful lot of developers, a lot of investor-backed companies who are looking at owning and operating buildings. So they've got a vested interest to understand what's gone into the building, how it's gone into the building, and how they're going to use it through its life, and potentially what it means to the end of life. We are starting to find some really interesting outputs around the ability to qualify early doors, the embodied carbon sustainability credentials around the financial institutes, so better lending terms for clients based on delivering a more sustainable build. At the moment, that is something that is looked at post-build.
Yeah.
If we're able to qualify because we can at this level, so code is spitting out full BOM of materials very early in the design process, and we have all verified EPDs for each individual component. It's a very simple piece of maths to understand the level of carbon in the system and then apply it to the actual system we apply to the project, to allow people to start to have those conversations in a meaningful way. Verified there.
So are the clients the main driver for the process? Because probably traditionally it'd be subcontractor into GC, into design, and then the client. Now it's reversing the other way.
It's not quite. Everyone's still very important. What we tend to find is it's not resistance, but it's a change that subcontractors generally don't like to see. So if there's a value that is significant enough for the client or the main contractor, it's a starting that conversation at a different level, so it's not shut down in the usual route to market. And this is only where it makes sense. It's not the total market. I mean, we're talking fractions of a market at this point in time.
Is your contract with GC or the actual supplier who's the
It'll be the supplier.
Yeah.
But it'll be the early design integration to stake in the tendering process of the systems being used for these reasons. Which is an awkward conversation to have in some areas with our traditional customers. The other big piece for us, traditional design route to market, is the supply chain and distribution side of things. And we're effectively supplying components to our own factories to make sub-assemblies to optimise approaches. So again, it's a different route to market that has to be considered and understood. I'm not trying to put anyone out.
Any other questions?
Just a question for Dave. Obviously, you're working closely with Saint-Gobain on the DIT Bolton solution, but I presume your platform is cross product, so you have multiple product configurations. Is that right?
Yeah, so what we showed there was pre-panelized like HTML panel, which is the internal system. If you go across brands just in the Saint-Gobain, you've got Kitchen, which is traditional framing, you've got SFS, the Intrastack system, and then you go through to the structural system within Intrastack, which is the structural loading panels. You've got that, you've got timber frame, you've got that, you've got concrete planks, you've got, like I say, we took it right back to bare bones to understand what are the different pre-manufactured and off-site solutions and how do these different systems work with one another. So it could be a SIP panel versus an open or closed timber frame panel, it could be a precast concrete plank. There's different parts of the building that need to be optimised and improved. So it is a platform for new systems, and that's where it sits.
Thank you.
Yeah.
From a data point of view, I think is it disjointed before when you've got lots of data in your design and you're coming out of 3D models into your manufacturing, which you're trying to streamline? Is there a disconnect then with typically when you go into construction, you've got your GC with a system, your subcontractor with another system, and it's really difficult to bridge that or join that or align the data across there?
So I mean, even within our businesses at the moment, the digital architecture isn't there to connect it all. So we are working very quickly in that area around having a single data lake, single operating systems between multi-brands, which are traditionally very siloed, to bring that single data source, but then taking the data into the open market effectively is a piece we're working on quite heavily, and it's a case of how can we ensure that the data that we have on the system be accessible but not loaded into that client's interface. So what we don't want to do is start to build systems which we try to push onto the market. We're trying to build data access that allows the market to get the relevant data in the right way. And that's a piece we're working on. We're not there.
Trying to have data that is useful for the supply chain, so they've got an interest in sharing that. Like they've obviously got a project management system, and you mentioned there was a project management system capturing the install or QA checking or progress on site. It's probably the key one of like trying to tie in the flow of materials coming into the site with what's actually happening on site.
Yeah. So, and the Nova Rent system we were looking at, system something that's just been bought by Procure. But again, a base system that collects placement information after we sort of handed it over into the subcontractor who's installing. So the next level of data will be collected within the same platform, but accessible by any of the platform. It is understanding that data piece is complicated, and actually building the digital architecture around it looks like a spider's been on LSD when they're writing. So it's
that's what we understood right from the ground up. From the ground up, code is taking an IFC file, so it's an open bin file. So it's not wedded to a Revit model or an AutoCAD model or a SketchUp model. It's actually the open file. Okay, so the same thing, understanding certain band and their data layer that they're building there, and actually connecting to that directly rather than an open file format. So it can go back into project teams. So if it is going into a Nova render, which is that will take an IFC file, and they can continue that later on. If it's going into a CSV file, just a simple text file, they can go into machine code. Is that layer there that can input take in some of the data for a project and output it the format that they need for their system? Is making sure that is possible. So going down to each of the individual pieces and parts at the lowest common data point, just that piece, that length, that height, and then extrapolating upwards in ways that make sense. So understanding from a manufacturer standpoint, understanding from a construction team standpoint, understanding from a design team, they all have different needs and requirements for that data. You will start with common data at the bottom, which is the pieces and parts in that system that live together. Then you can extrapolate up in different ways suited to that discipline and project. Not this must be used verbatim across every project across the world. It's going to actually be a little more flexible in that sense. I think Deborah mentioned earlier about going into the external envelope and actually looking at a heat load and trying to get to net zero. The challenges of that tend to be actually what information do we have to help bring toward the team. So it's avoiding that rework again and again and again. That is costly, not just in physical cost of people repeating the work, but just the time. So what could be done in a handful of weeks has taken months, just because of people redoing the same amount of work.
The two-way flow data is really important. There's huge optimization for us in forecasting, in bespoking the product, if we've got access to start dates, schedule, build schedules.
Realistic ones.
Sorry?
Realistic ones.
Realistic ones, yeah, realistic ones, not ones that have been put over by someone who's not in the coal face. But I mean, we can, if we've got a set volume of bespoke material, rather than having a standard board we cut within the prefab factory, we'll make custom boards for it. If we've got a known level of steel frame output, the cam files can be adjusted to have cut to length studs. So you're taking out process, you're taking out waste from the production process. But it's all to do with understanding and fixing the design and getting the design freeze in a realistic time period. And if we can do that from early engagement around a system that can be delivered at scale, it tends to work a lot better than adjusting to a day's notice.
Can I ask just on the standardised panel, is it only related to the size, or is it moisture resistant plasterboard? Would that be a bespoke panel, or a fireboard or a sandboard?
The sizes, so that the party walls are tested with a given product on it. So it is a sound block double layer internally. So they are different boards. We do have different boards in.
And they're all standard, they are the standard boards.
Yeah. So there's the three main wall types and 1 or 2 variations in boards on those wall types.
I'd like to ask you, Deborah, and you've been at this a while now, what are the blockers? I mean, because for me it looks like a no-brainer, but what are the blockers?
There's one. So I suppose for us the blocker originally was we had the concept, we had the idea, we had the manufacturing, we had, you know, the finance, but we didn't actually have a client that was willing to let us, you know, take that first job. So we had to become developers. So I bought the land, we put it down ourselves, and that was very good, as opposed to get that proof of concept. So doing it from start to finish ourselves, we were able to control that data that you were talking about, and managing, you know, from start to finish, the groundworks, the general contractor, the logistics of our products, how they were being handled, and, you know, from start to finish, from manufacturing to right to the end, we were able to gather that data for ourselves. So I think that was really a good exercise for the whole team, because we had many different teams coming together and figuring out what was the best way to do this and to manage this whole process. And that was a good learning for us. And, you know, the programme did change quite a few times, and, you know, we weren't sure where we were at times, but it was just, I think, managing it from start to finish. You weren't coming in and somebody saying, well, we're not ready for you, or this isn't going to happen yet. We were able to manage that whole process from start to finish. So that's where, you know, to then be able to code that and show the clients, I think that's very valuable in time and money and in the, you know, the waste, because we were able to use 3D volumetric. So if you didn't have that much waste, we were able to control the activities on site as well.
Yeah. I mean, like with the housing crisis,
well, now we're kind of stuck on certification, because you know, we got the building signed off by site certifier, and then realised, well, actually, building control, because it's 3D volumetric and it comes as one part, just plug and play. We decide what's in there. So we had to go through that whole process.
Did they have to go out to the factory then to do those couple of key inspections at different construction points? Did that then come to the factory?
That happened at the factory. So the architect came to the factory at different stages. We had the engineers coming to the factory, you know, when we built the frame, signing them off. So all the way through we had that process. But still, when we got to the end and brought it to site, it was just like, well, we need more information, because it's classed as new and innovation. It wasn't the regular standard, you know, when you do the panels you can see the joints, you know what's behind that wall, the connections, the interfacing. But when you build it in the factory, nobody really knows what's there, even with it in. So the process for the MSA, literally take it apart, you know, on paper and drawings, and put it back together. We're a few weeks away from that. So that was a big barrier for us. You know, we're finished. We've been there 6 months. We're all waiting.
Is there like photographic evidence, like altering up, like say a QA regime leading into that they can then have, like, I suppose, see behind the panel that didn't have to physically try and restrict or put a whole point on your production line to.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we were quite open to draw everyone to the factory, whoever wanted to come to inspect everything. We had the materials, DOPs, you know, we've got all the information, we've got all the data, thousands and thousands.
So where is the factory?
And a lot of calls. So the factory's in Poland, and we manufacture there. But the design belongs to us. So we basically, you know, went to the factory and they do their manufacturing for us. So we're
It's one thing to bring down the cost. I mean, even in our closed panel systems, we've probably got 6 different people coming in and auditing the same set of data, the same process, the same QA process, just because you built for those 6 different certification levels, from 9,001 to warranty to mortgageability. All
That's
different
your time,
entities.
can you imagine on that?
That's just
3D
those
volumetrics,
panels.
that whole thing is, that's a big process. It's a very big process.
So I'm just wondering, with the fallout of the Grenfell disaster in 17 and the introduction of the new Safety Act in the UK, to what extent do systems like COPE really are now a must-have, that you have this sort of structured, accessible, auditable digital data? It's an unlikely thing to have. You must have this. Have you seen a change in the UK in particular?
Yeah, so gateway now. So having all your products and design systems agreed and go into the gateway agrees. Those gateway 2s typically when. So
Gateway is what?
So off the back of Grenfell and the Building Safety Act, there's now these 6 points in which the project has to be frozen and all the technical information is reviewed.
Right.
Initially, it's costing project teams months of delay because it's going through that process. I'm sure in time that process will smooth out and get faster and quicker, but it's the first batch of projects. Interval is on one of those projects. It's been free since Christmas, and it's now coming through the end of that Gateway 2 process, so that project team can continue on with that design and development. But those systems are agreed and reviewed and understood. Do they actually interface with other systems, and is there gaps in information, etc. If there is a gap, it goes to the back of queue, and you go through that process again. And as I say, at the moment, this is the first time these projects are going through this process. I'm sure in time that will be reviewed and improved, but yeah, you see.
Is that restricted to certain locations in London City?
The building type already, so depending on scale,
Tall buildings.
I think that's really where we do help the supply chain, because a lot of the design, a lot of the risk is taken on through the system application at an earlier stage. So there is a real advantage for subcontractors to work within a system that has controlled risk because of the level of testing and the way it's applied and designed. It has a fixed performance parameter that can be applied to a fixed application in use, and it's designed and pulled through with the data from day one. So when we get to the Gateway 2 requirements, the data's all there. And Gateway 2 is just before technical design. So often it doesn't fit with a traditional sort of design and build flow. There's a loose design, a loose performance parameter before we hit REAP stage 4 where all the detailed work's done. Gateway 2 is just before that. So there's a region on where the detailed information is needed in the whole process.
The priority is safety. It's nice to have zero energy rated buildings and get your costs of down to 180 euros a year, whatever it is. But actually, is the building compliant with the regulations, and can the authorities see that? And that's really, I think, is going to be the cultural shift that's going to happen in the industry. That it's not going to be nice to have, you must have effectively a digital twin that demonstrates that you've built to the standards to ensure the building is safe. And that goes from low to high-rise buildings, I think, in the future.
To your point there, tools like Code and others, it's not just Code that's working on this space. You actually start to have system integration and actually have an awareness of how one interface, one product interfaces with another. You start to identify, is this a known verified interface? So typically in the volumetric world, a lot of the manufacturers that are struggling is that they would get into site and suddenly, well, we don't know if this external facade system interfaces correctly with this module, and we don't have a warranty sign up. So you have to go through the processes, the fire testing, everything, and that's causing delays. And why you see financial costs on a lot of them just because of delays, not to themselves, they're just going through that verification process. Tools like Code and others actually allow you to say, well, we know that that system already has a verified warranty with this other system. You can take the same command brands, they're in a great position where each brand already interfaces with their own brands internally, so they can already check that in data. What do we have certificates, warranties for, others on bespoke details, people are working on it. It takes time to roll stuff out. Working with warranty providers and insurers, in time they'll come into the system as well. So yeah, I think the space is going to be very different in a handful of years than where it is today.
I think there was a certain amount of warranty providers in Ireland, and they left. I don't know for what reason, for LMC, and they don't warranty under 2 million or under 5 million euros. So I'm not sure why that is. We've looked into that for the last year. That seems to be a bit of a burden as well. Yeah. So even though you choose the materials right from the start, because the codes, you know what the fire regulations are, what materials that you should use. So that's a bit of a burden.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
So, for modular homes, you can't get a warranty?
Well, we've had to go into Europe to get a warranty for our building.
Dale, you don't like digital twin, but this is just perfect digital twin. And it's not really just about the new build, that like today, the new construction, it's down the line with retrofit. If you have that information and that learning on how things fit together, when you do a retrofit, like the data's there, ready to be used, and then the solutions will update that information so the next user in line has that information available to them. And it's a big thing when people try and sell, assets. There's a data room, and everything just gets flown into the data room, and people spend a long time of their life that they'll never get back searching for information, looking for risk. So that's what it's about. Like how much risk they don't care. It's risk they just want it to be known. And if you have the data and the information available, then that risk is known, and people can make a decision really quickly. It's right. I have a question for you, Tom. You said that you leave it up to people, to clients, on whether or not they want, 95% off-site manufactured, delivered to the site. Why would people not want that?
It's basically providing the data to allow someone who wouldn't see that level of data to make a choice. So, you can deliver a division of space in many different ways.
Yeah.
It's on-site traditionally, off-site, with the systemised approach, and it's giving choice. So it's enabling that data to allow choice rather than one way or the other.
Okay, but I'm making a big assumption here. This is cheaper. It's a cheaper way to do things. Who is it cheaper for?
It's when you're actually looking at a product cost at the cold phase, it's never going to be cheaper to provide a product like a group analyzed system compared to building the component parts. But when you're looking at project in a round, it is often a cheaper approach, and it's that value argument which often, because of the way construction's siloed, you don't get the full value of a systemised approach at a project level. And this using code allows us to apply that level of thinking. So looking at efficiencies around site scheduling, say crane optimisation. There's one project on Wembley which isn't factored into the dry lining cost, but they have a team of 8 walking around after dry liners clean them, which costs them $500,000 a year. That's not factored into the delivery of that process. It's just seen as a project cost.
But that's somebody's daily bread.
It is someone's daily bread, but it is quite unproductive to send an awful lot of manufactured product to site, send an awful lot of waste out, pay someone to create the waste, and you can design all that out and deliver a lot quicker.
Yeah, I remember lived experience of pallets, right? In the company I worked for, we were paying to hire the pallets, we were paying for the guy to take the pallets away, and then we were paying for him to store the pallets. So we were paying 3 times the pallets. And when we woke up to this, we went, what? And the guy was not happy because this was huge, revenue generator. So I'm guessing this change, this digital approach to, which is brilliant. Somebody wins and somebody loses. And it's the losers that are going to be the naysayers and the people that are going to block.
Yeah, but we are seeing costs absolutely spiral. I mean, consultancy costs have gone up by more or less 10% in recent years. And if you've got systems that are tested to the level that is required, applied to the controlled way and fully auditable, that level of consultancy can be streamlined. So as Dale mentioned, it's not a case of finding a problem on site, not learning from it, copying it onto the next site and experiencing the same problem. It's that foresight to build into the system and learn as you go along to what's further optimised.
I think it's Tom's point.
These processes are cheaper, I think, is a misconception. I think these processes can improve value, but it doesn't mean it's the right process for every project. And that is why being able to identify that sooner and quicker to say an off-site process is better or an off-site process is not is why you go to these systems early stage in stages 0, 1 and 2 of Reba. So let's stop trying to back a horse, let's just let it work. Let's go through a process that is going to add value as opposed to actually costing us more money down the line. Doing a pre-fab off-site solution where every pan is bespoke size and fit. It's probably not the best route. You're probably better off on a traditional grade. It's most traditional grade on every project, and that is where the narrative comes from. Well, actually, there is a better alternative to this type of project, and that's why we come through. Volumetric, 2D panel, traditional on-site build. Each one has a use and a purpose, so it's trying to understand what is the right one as fast as possible. That's where the industry needs to get as fast as possible.
Thank you.
Also, the interesting thing is it's often the people who perceive to be the ones losing out who are most benefiting from it. So the dry liner in this system you would expect to resist. The dry liners that are using it are sending us pictures on a daily basis and videos of bins on site that are completely empty, and the fact that they're not having, they're getting a lot more productivity out of their skilled labour, and they're a nightmare trying to find skilled labour at the moment, but at the level they need to install traditionally. Whereas that skilled labour in terms of productivity is massively enhanced on a system like this, so they can install more with less in a more productive way. So it's just the initial resistance, and often I would say that the ones that you think are losing out are actually benefiting. So,
final thought questions?
Just on their perspective, how are you working with the room data sheet for the first and second fix of electrical and mechanical service through the modular system when it comes to site? Is there OPS within the van?
There's OPS usually over always, but they're usually planned in and they're bespoke to. At the moment, they're bespoke. What we're trying to look at is whether there's enough capability to look at a standardised range that caters for 90% of the requirements. Because again, we have a line making service openings that go into walls which aren't bespoke to the site, and often a number of bespokes for a given project. And again, with that earlier involvement in the design process, if we can standardise it, we can produce it more efficiently, deliver it more efficiently, bring down the cost of the system.
So if you get the room data sheets, you could have the second fix within the system and fix it, so it's more of a design build rather than construction.
And coordinating those again, so hopefully not sitting there just looking at the division of the space silo, it's working with other follow-on trades and consultants to ensure that the system's delivering what they need as well, and to see where there is the level of standardisation that can be reached to get to that industrialised model.
Great. All right, one final question, quick fire to the panel, and you're not allowed to say win the lottery, that's not right. If you had one wish for the industry, what would it be? Daily.
I'll go first.
One wish, Deborah, go.
Well, we've just standardised our model, and we just want to bring it to the market, and we want everybody to celebrate with us, and that's what my wish is for the minute.
Brilliant. Tom?
It's an acceptance that offsite can deliver what traditional do. A lot of people tend to look to say, well, we've been building in traditional, we know it lasts, and nothing can do that. And all these dreaded NMC things will just last half the amount of time without any design thinking. We tend to find that a lot in the warranty market. It's it's not been touched before, so we can't deliver what you say it's delivered. So it's just that step change to understand that if we want to be industrialised construction, meet demand, we're probably not going to be able to do that just by scaling what we do today.
And I think skills is a really good, because you know, the people coming into the industry, it's important that's made available, you know, these courses and that education. So it's not just, there's not a gap in that market, because, you know, even in the MMC market, there's a lot of skills around that, but there is a gap, and that needs to be done. So I think still let's do the job.
Now that you give it time.
Yeah, there you go. My goal for this is that each team, each part of the project process can come to the table together and actually collaborate, not just cooperate. So, you know, be open-minded about what's going to be discussed. Know that everybody comes with their own goals and objectives, but to look at alternatives as a potential positive rather than an immediate negative, and actually have a discussion and a candid discussion and go from there. Because everybody has the same goal of recruiting. Everyone wants to grow, everyone wants to do more, everyone wants to do better. So let's work together.
Perfect. So actually, if I summarise that, it's people come on. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Dave, for your contributions this morning. So it only comes to me to close proceedings, take a little bit of a rest for the summer period and return in September. It's been an interesting experience, this automation series, 4 events, very well attended. First event February, we heard from Midland Steel, Futurecast, HTL, and ATIM, the Advanced Technology in Manufacturing Cluster in the Midlands. And they really set the theme in February about the importance of automation and the skills around autonomy and the future impact of AI. So that very much set the scene. Then in April, we had McCrum Architects. I see Jacket there from Cairn Homes, talked about the standardisation of design, Ethos and Southern Regional College. That set the scene about the continued importance of BIM. In particular, and you can see that it still features very heavily in our training programme. Moving on then to May, we heard from Cosmos, Geiger Muller and Diatech. SCSI kindly hosted that event in their offices, and that was about enhancing planning and costing. And I see Jason from Geiger Muller is here. Jason did a great presentation there. And then this brings us on to today in Next Generation Build. And this is something we very much have focusing on right now in SkillNet, Ireland, NNC, Accelerate platform and series of events. We're going to HTL in Dundalk, or Drogheda next week, which is the second of 8 events that we're running this year. So very much focused around modern methods of construction, not just modular, but all dimensions of construction. In particular, I suppose, the upskilling for autonomy. In other words, how can we prepare the workforce of today and the future for next generation tech? This is the key. This is the key point. Because we are going to have to do more with less. So we'll be returning in September looking at green automation, particularly kind of automating building compliance that was touched on today. And then finally, looking at AI as a backdrop to the gathering, which will happen on the 6th of November in the Clayton Hotel, which you're all very welcome. Delighted to see you there. And that sort of agenic agent AIs, this is something that's going to be really, really important in construction. And I know I work with AI daily, and it does help me in doing what I do. On the training side, trailblazing as usual, CitA SkillNet, huge amount of training going on, up to 80% funding available on ESF programs. Look at the range of courses we have here. BIM is featuring, but also sort of soft skills around women in construction. We have a diploma in project management. AI is featuring, and there are many more courses available. So you can contact Daria to find out more. But this is industry-led funding, and we're supporting colleges and students across the country in studying and also in upskilling. So that focus of upskilling really continues to be really, really important. The gathering. So there's an open invitation on the CitA gathering website for industry to present at the gathering. We've got we've got sufficient number of academic papers in the programme. We need about 15-20 more industry presentations to give that good mix around certain themes. And this is very much a celebration of CitA 25 years, realising the vision of where we are, and then, you know, advancing automation in the next 25 years. So we'd love to see you on the 6th of November. It's a very simple process. Log on, invitation to present industry, your name, email, and what you'd like to speak about. We'll probably be targeting some people as well, because we want to get this programme dusted by the end of June, ideally early July, so we can focus then on, you know, promoting it and getting people to register. We want this to be a really big success, because this is a milestone, and it's also, we'll be having a gala dinner on the evening of the conference, and we'd love to see you there. And so, listen, thank you very much. I see Kieran is here this morning from the SkillNet NMC Accelerate team, and Kieran is doing a great job along with Orla and the Accelerate team in actually curating content for the SkillNet NMC Accelerate platform. So the focus this month is 3D printing and digital construction. So we're looking for sort of industry news content around those themes. And I think the cope, the ban message could be really something that we could showcase on the platform. So please keep engaged with CitA. Thank you for all your support. We'll be back, is it September or October? I think it's September. We'll be back here in September, and wishing you all a lovely summer, and let's hope the sun comes out and stays out for the next couple of months. Thank you so much, and good health to you all. Thank you.